Bonjour. Anzo Kadishnika, Shalgi Dodem, Bising Donjaba, Nishnabe and Dao. I'd like to welcome you. Just get my screen on here. Welcome you to today, to this time that we're in, this um, this particular moon, this flower moon, blooming moon, we call it. Um, I'm a Shkarbewis from Nipissing. My Anishinaabe name is Anzoked. I'm of the Crane clan, and as Zach was saying, him and I have been friends for a long time. I knew him when he was just about that big, and he he's been working with my son and friends with my son for a long time. So I'm honored to be here to share a little bit that I know. Um, about the 13 moons, including the one we're in. And so I just want to start by saying that for Indigenous people, including Anishinaabe, um, we have always looked at and have been closely in line with the cycles of creation, which is where the 13 moons comes from. And when you look at those cycles, there are 13 times our grandmother turns and looks to us. She looks to us, and her face, she has 13 faces that turn and look at us and take care of us. And her medicine, she shares her medicine with each of those turns that she makes. And depending where you are, there are always 13 moons across the earth, of course. Indigenous people have their different ways that they understand those moon cycles, and our grandmother, the moon. So they're depending where you are, they may refer to that moon that you are in a different way. It's the same moon that is happening all over the earth, but there are different medicines, different things that happen at that time that our grandmother is in charge of. That she conducts these things that happen across the earth. So for us, we have our names of each of those moons, and you go to somewhere else, and their names might be some might be similar, some might be different. The whole all 13 may be totally different names and understanding, but they're the same moons. It's just depending where you are, her medicine might be a little bit different. If you have any questions or comments, Zach, maybe Zach can keep track of the chat, and you can put your questions in there or comments, and we'll somehow see if we can get them in. How many are online right now? Can I ask?
It's 20, 23.
Okay. All right. And there may be others that will join us as we go along. So it's said that our grandmother Moon watches over the waters of Earth, which she does. She has been given instructions from Gajem Nado, the creator, to watch over her daughter, the Earth, our grandmother. Uh, and we see her regulating the tides. She's also responsible to govern the balance of creation, fire, water, night, day, etc. And she has a close relationship with the Kwewak, our women, in their own cycles. And we speak of that when our women are going through those cycles. We always reference our grandmother as part of our women's cycles. And so she has an important role in bringing new life into creation. As you know, within our own families, when we look at our families, it is our grandparents, especially our grandmother, when it comes to the children of the family, who holds a particular special place in the family when it comes to that new life in the family. So our grandmother, the moon, is also seen in that way in our creation family. She sits in that special place to watch over life, and is given that responsibility to help things along. So much of the water, water life spawns from, according to the cycles of the moon. So we look at water as being the place where life comes from, all life. And we see it, in our stories of the beginnings of life, how it came through that life water that was placed on our mother, the earth. And we see it in our families when our Kwewak bring life into the world through that sacred water that is within them. And that life, that fire of life, grows inside that water. It brings that special balance of fire and water together to create life. And it is our women, our Kwewak, who bring that forward, who are the doors of life. They bring life into the world. And it's our grandmother who watches over these women, our women, and the water in creation, all over creation. So there's that special bond, that special relationship that our grandmother has with our women, our Kwewak, which is why our women will conduct the full moon ceremonies. I mean, that's their responsibility, to pray for that water, to do that ceremony. One of many ceremonies that women do in honoring our grandmother. In our territory, that full moon is one that is done often at the full moon of each of the 13 moons. Our women will gather and will lead those ceremonies. Our men will act as helpers and sometimes be a part of the ceremony, but as helpers. We don't lead it at that time. It's not for us to do that. So that's important to know when we're looking at the 13 moons. And I touched on our moon time that our Kwewak have, and it is our grandmother, a moon, who has that special relationship with our women during that cycle, that natural cycle that our women have, and it is a gift to our women, and a responsibility that is given to them to bring that life into this world, into the physical world. It's a time when their vessels are cleansing, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, preparing for new life should it happen at that time. And this power is very strong. Having the responsibility of bringing life into the world is a big responsibility, with a lot of medicine, a very powerful medicine that our women have, which is why at times certain ceremonies, women are asked to step back from that ceremony to be there, but not right in, because they are too powerful. They carry too much power, which will possibly disrupt the balance of those ceremonies. So the women are asked to leave, but they're asked to step back and to be in a special place in that ceremony, so they can still be a part of it, but at the same time, the energy and the medicine they have is it doesn't affect the ceremony. Even I remember hearing a teaching about how our women, one of the teachings around skirts, and when you see the skirt, it goes right to the ground, and that skirt is one of those teachings that help control the energy that women have, that give life. And so the women wear that skirt to make sure they are connected to our mother, the earth, and that their power, that enormous power that they have, is controlled in a way where it's connected to our mother, and again, so it doesn't disrupt things around them. And so it's I know there's debates around the skirts and things in our ceremonies, but it is because of the power the strength that our women have, and other teachings, but that is one. And it's not for me again to delve too much into those teachings. Those are women's teachings, but as as men, we need to understand some of that. And so I'm just sharing a little bit of what I know about that. So again, when women are under moon time, that power is at its strongest in its cycle. And so, I've already sort of spoken to how ceremony is done, and we ask our women to uh, to to handle their power in a good way, and try to uh, keep that power from affecting things around. When a young woman is on her berry fast, uh, it is because she has her moon time for the very first time, and so this young girl who is becoming a young woman um, is brought into a special ceremony that acknowledges that prepares her for that responsibility to carry new life, to be a life giver. And so that is, again, a very special ceremony that's done with our women, the mom, the aunties, the grandmas, those women in the Kwewak in the communities will gather with this young woman during certain time, right when she has her first moon time, and they will prepare her for the rest of her life, and share with her the responsibilities of being, that life giver, and the power that she now possesses. So she's given teachings about this, given shared experiences by the other Kwewak about how they, you know, in their lives, how they have handled themselves. Different responsibilities will be given during that time, while she is in that fast, that berry fast, refraining from eating berries, but also working on things, doing beadwork and different things that she will need to know as a woman, as a Kwewak. She will be taught and begin to do those things at that time. Before this time, she is just a child that's allowed to be a child. And but when she begins to change, when that life gift is being passed to her by our grandmother, um, by the moon, then her responsibilities will change. So the indigenous calendars that we use, again, I spoke of that earlier. They're not the same as the Western. Western goes by the 12 months, at least in North America and some of the other countries, and it doesn't quite align with the natural cycles. So for us, we've always, as Indigenous people, we've always looked at that calendar as an important way to live our lives, because as Indigenous people, we have always been so in tune with the seasons, with the moons, all these things that connect us to creation. And so it's important for us to recognize each moon cycle and the changes and the different things that happen at that time, so we can plug in, so we can live our lives according to those cycles, not the cycles according to another structure like a calendar or a clock. There's natural time, natural events, natural things that we connect with as Indigenous people. And so there are different variations of that calendar, but one of the ones we use comes from the shell of the turtle, which has those certain sections of the turtle, and that was our calendar, but it was done and looked at in a natural way. And it had the 13 moons in it. Here's an example of some of those moons and the sort of a breakup, showing the sections and what they represent. And again, these may vary, it might be different from some of the moons that we see, but this is an example of how that is viewed. So we often would refer to the turtle, the shell of the turtle, to show us, what month that we are in, or what moon we are in. Sorry, in that special cycle. So creation provides us with everything we need. On a turtle's back, the pattern of the scales establishes the combination of numbers that define the lunar calendar cycle. The circle of scales that surround the edge add up to 28, which is the number of days within each of the moons. And so that shows us, the special gift from creation, and the things that we look to help guide us through. The center of the shell has a pattern of 13 large scales, which represent the 13 moons of the what is called the lunar calendar. So the first moon, the spirit moon, Giizis, the first moon of creation, is manifested through the northern lights. If you have a beautiful night sky in that winter time, you will see those northern lights. It's a time to honor the silence and realize our place within all of the mysteries, all the great mysteries in creation. That is also a time where we begin to tell our stories. We sit dormant for some time during those months, during the winter months. So that was a time when we would do a lot of our work on our outfits and things, but also we would tell stories. We'd sit around and we would share stories and teachings. So a lot of our knowledge was passed during those winter months, when we would have that time together to share our words and share our stories. The second moon, Giizis, bare moon, it's around that February time. And that was a very special time because that was the time that the bear would turn in its den. It's hibernating during that time. It's been in its den now since the fall, a number of months. And this moon is a time when our grandmother signals to those bears to turn in their den, to begin that new cycle of life, to prepare their medicine, and that makwa would show us the importance of sleep as they lay in their den, the importance of dream time, the importance of fasting. For us, we fast for a couple of days and we're having a hard time and we're complaining. Bears, they will fast in their den for months on end. But also, our female bears, the mother bears, or the mothers to be, will be in their dens not only fasting, but they are preparing to give birth, and they give birth at this time. They're having their cubs. So, these bears, they show us that unconditional love for life and that true nature of that mother, what she will do for her babies. And as many of you know, when you're in the bush and you come across a mother bear with cubs, you need to stay away, because she will put her life in front of her cubs to save them, to keep them safe. I got mosquitoes in here. So this is a time when the bear turns, and when it does that, it signals to the thunder beings, the thunder birds, to prepare their life water for the upcoming moons that will happen, when the thunders will bring their sacred water, their thunder water. They'll bring their thunder water to to creation, to bring new life, the new life we're seeing right now during this moon and those other moons beforehand. So each moon connects to the next. Each of the gifts and medicine is connected all the way around. So this is the beginning of that new cycle. These life cycle happens each year. And it's the bear, the makwa, that leads the beginning of each cycle. That's part of their responsibility, especially those mother bears. And again, that female position in creation is, part of that life giving, that life giver. The third moon of creation is that sugar moon. I can't read my screen. I wonder, Zach, can you give us the Anishinaabe
Yeah.
word?
Giizis, Giizis.
Oh, miigwech. So the third moon of creation is that sugar moon. The maple sap begins to run. We learn of one of the main medicines given to Anishinaabe, which is that sap water. It balances our blood, heals us. It helps cleanse us from a long winter. It prepares us for that new life. Those trees, they invite us to join them in that cleansing. The maple trees, the birch trees. In that moon time, the trees will begin to cleanse. The sap will begin to run. And so, as Indigenous people, again, that was an invitation for us to drink that sap water. We didn't always just boil it, although we did to obtain our the sugar that we would use for the year. But it was also a special time to drink that sap water to cleanse our vessels, to help prepare us for that new year. And again, that water is one of the different waters that exist in creation. There are many kinds of waters, not just one or a couple. There are many. Water in the sky, water in the trees, water within us, water inside our mother, the earth, water on top of her. There's water in the air, moisture. There's water everywhere, and water carries life. So this is a time when the water begins to move. And during the previous month, there's a ceremony that we would do during that makwa Giizis, the bear moon, where we would make a bear bundle. And this bear bundle and ceremony were done to help us release something that we're carrying mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And we want to release it. So we would create this bear bundle. And it was about this time when we would carry that bundle to this time, this next moon, when that water begins to run. When you go and you see and you hear the streams running, the creeks, and then you would take that bear bundle, it'd be a small pouch, and you would turn your back to the water, the running water, and you would throw that little bundle, that little bear bundle, into the water, and you don't look back at it, because you don't look back at those things you want to release. So you throw your bundle in the water, and then you walk away. And whatever you're carrying or thinking of putting in, whatever you put in that bundle while you wore it for that month, that moon or two, it would go. Some of it, all of it, depends on how hard you prayed or asked for that, and it would be released, and you would let it go. And it's part of that water that is running, that would help take those things away. And again, this is our relationship with creation. We would be so close to these things that were happening all around us. We would make it a part of our lives. We wouldn't try to control them. We worked with creation and with the moon cycles. So for us, this is the time of tapping. But if you go to another territory, they don't have maple trees, they don't tap, but they'll have something else that happens at that time in that particular moon cycle. Sucker moon. Again, Zach, can you give me the pronunciation?
Yeah. Neme bene. Neme bene Giizis.
Yeah, sucker moon. And the sucker moon, is a time when we recognize some of those ones that are the cleansers of creation. Part of their job is to come and clean things up that from messes that are made by us, by other animals. The suckers are one of those ones whose job it is to keep the floor of the streams, of the lakes clean. Whatever things that go down, they will go down and they will consume them and clean that. And so the suckers are one of those creatures that do it. You see it with the seagulls and the crows, and that's their job, to keep things clean, to clean up. And Western society tends to look down on those who do that particular job, but for us it was important. It was important that we acknowledge those whose job it was to cleanse, to clean. And not only that, but the sucker itself, giving itself, it would go through its spawn like other fish that we would harvest in the springtime. But the suckers, the sturgeon, the trout, the salmonoid, the ones who carried oil in their bodies, they were fatty, were important to us because after a hard winter of not having a lot of food or rationing what we did have to make it through the winters, those hard winters, there would be a bounty of suckers or fish that we could harvest, and and then our bodies would be given that nourishment that was needed. So the suckers were part of that. They were one of the first ones that would offer themselves to us to consume so we could get our strength back, begin to put that fat back in our bodies. The whitefish would do it in the fall to help us prepare for the winter. They're the last ones to spawn then, but the suckers, the smelt, those fish would also spawn in the spring, including pickerel and pike and them. What's interesting was I was told one time that that when we targeted fish to catch, we didn't spend a lot of time trying to catch pickerel or pike because they were so flaky. There was no substance to them. There was no oil. We would look at the suckers and the sturgeon and the trout. Like I said, those salmonoid type fish that carried oil, so that when we smoked them or we ate them, they had substance to them. They filled our bellies, and we would gain more nourishment from them than we would from the others. Even today, when you cook pike or pickle, you fry it a lot of times. You add the oil to it. These ones you didn't need to. They had oil in them. So these were, part of those ones that we honored, that helped us through our own life and coming out of those winters. The blooming budding moon. Again, I can't read it. Zach?
Waabgowanii. Waabgowanii Giizis.
Oh, miigwech. This, the fifth moon of creation, the flower moon, the blooming moon, budding moon, where all plants display the spirit sides for all the world to see. This life-giving energy is one of the most powerful healing medicines on Mother Earth. when you go outside at this time and you see the dandelions opening up, the different buds that are opening up on the apple trees and the maple trees, and it's what it is it's showing the spirit of life, of creation. You see it opening, and it's a time when creation, the life is everywhere. The buzzing of the insects, the opening up of the leaves of the plants. You can go and you can actually see things moving. You can see the spirit. In a winter time, the spirit and things are there, but they're within the trees or the roots, and everything is kind of slowed down. But you see the speed, and you actually see the movement of the spirit of creation at this time. And that in part comes, no, not in part, it comes from that sacred water that the thunders have brought. Right now we have our rainstorms, and for those of you who cut your lawns, you know what I'm talking about. When it rains, the grass just, you can see it growing. You can see the spirit of creation being nurtured from that life water that comes from the sky, from the thunders. So this particular moon, it's after those waters have come, and you see that life, and the expression of that spirit is often by the plants, is often shown by the flowers and the buds and the things, because those represent the new life that is coming. The new life that will come after the flowers is the berries, the fruits of that life, the new generations that will come. But it's the flowers that show us the spirit of the plants, of life, of creation. And each of these moon cycles, not only are we attached to them, that we live our lives and connect to them, but it also reminds us how our own lives, how we have to live our own lives to show our blooming, our budding, the things we're learning, to live our lives the same way those cycles, those moons happen. And to remind us to live our lives in that same way, to show our spirit, those special gifts we were given, to celebrate that, to be generous with it. The plants, they come out at this time, and they offer us their medicine. They are the most generous beings in creation. And we run over them with a lawnmower, or we cut them down and without a thought. And they come back up again, offering their medicine. Their kindness and generosity is overwhelming when you think about it. And so we need to be like that too. We need to be like those plants. We need to be kind and generous with our medicine. And oftentimes we are not. But the plants will always show us their love for us. We just don't always see it. The next moon that we will move in, strawberry moon.
Odemin, Giizis.
Yeah,
Odemin.
Odemin Giizis, is when that those plants, or even ourselves, we show the fruits of our life. And so the strawberry moon is when those strawberries begin to show themselves. The first ones are usually the strawberries, and then it goes into the blueberries, the raspberries, and so on, the different berries. But the strawberry is that first one. But again, it's about that certain time of our life that we need to acknowledge as well, and try to follow these moons in the same way. So that sixth moon in creation is the strawberry moon. The medicine of the strawberry is reconciliation. We hear that word a lot. And so it's not just a political word. We need to reconcile as well with creation ourselves. We need to heal. not only with the government and those things that are going on, but with each other and with creation. Because it's about rekindling and strengthening, nurturing that relationship we have with creation. So the strawberry, that berry, reminds us of that. It's the only berry that has the seeds on the outside, and that those plants they speak to us. They will let us know what they're good for. That heartberry, strawberry, reminds us about our heart, not only the spirit of our heart, but also physically to keep it healthy. And the strawberry itself is good. Is when you make it a part of your diet is good for your heart. We use the strawberry in our ceremonies. It's one of the first things we do with strawberries and water. Well, as part of our ceremonies to offer that. Again, the same way creation offers that to us. We make that a part of our lives. So these berries, this time of berries, is again also acknowledging that new life that has come. For our families, we have those new little ones that are part of our lives. There's new things in our lives that happen. So all these, the newness of life, this time is about a reflection of that. And if you live your life, in a good way, you are often given these fruits. And so it's to acknowledge that and to give thanks for that. To let go of judgment or self-righteousness. To be humble and kind. To be soft and sweet like the berries. The next berry, and again, this may change different places, but the raspberry moon.
Skummen, Giizis.
Yeah, the seventh moon of creation is the raspberry moon. The great changes begin by learning gentleness and kindness. You may pass through the thorns of its brush and harvest its fruit as we gain knowledge that will help in raising our families. And it does bring that balance. We acknowledge that, when the raspberry is such a soft and supple berry. Our grandson Shkudaninj, that's his favorite berry. He just loves that. He stuffs his face with those. But when you go out and you pick them, in order to get that supple, soft, sweet berry, you have to go through the pickies of that plant, which is like in life. In life, when we go after those things that we yearn for, sometimes you got to go through a little bit of pain to get there. You have to watch yourself. You don't just go full bore into it. You have to maneuver yourself around and to find those berries. So the strawberry or the raspberry is one of those berries that teaches us lots of things as well about life and the gifts that we receive that are often not just passed to us. We have to work for them. We have to go through a little bit of experience to get them. Blackberry moon.
Dat cog min, Giizis.
Yeah, the eighth moon of creation. Blackberry, thimbleberry, it's also called. Produces an abundance of fruit once every 3 years. So again, it's not every year. It has its own cycle, and every plant has their own cycle. And every person, we go through our own cycles as well. And, each of us are different. So our cycles are not always in sync with one another. But we are all connected. We're all part of each other, part of creation. It was one of the first plants put on Mother Earth. Its purpose was to protect the sacred circle of life by allowing us to recognize and understand the teachings that come from the spirit world. And the spirit world is a special connection to us because that is part of that next life that we will have. We don't sit in isolation in the physical world. We come from the spirit world, we move to the spirit world. And we have cycles that we go through. We learn and experience things. We are spirits having a physical experience. And the cycles of the moon help us in that experience, help us learn as we walk through the physical life. Help us learn those things we need to know as we walk through to prepare us to move to that next world. Mindaman, Giizis. I don't know. I can't read it. Is that what it says?
Yeah, Damen. Yeah.
Yeah. Corn moon, September. We are now moving towards that time where, although we harvest and the cycles happen throughout the whole year, plants are cycling, life is cycling, and so we are part of tapping into those cycles and receiving the gifts from it. This is a time when all the cycles begin to sort of wind down, slow down. So September is that time when there's a main harvest that is done for many plants, for the animals. During that harvest time, we begin to do that in that Mindaman Giizis, that corn moon, the ninth moon of creation. So each cob, and this may change with the different corn that you get now, they're all genetically modified, but the natural corns, they have 13 rows of multicolored seeds, which is the Indian corn that we used to grow. And so that 13 also speaks to the 13 moons. There are numbers that are important in creation. 13 is one, 7 is another, 4, 28. And you hear those numbers in some of our sweats too when we do ceremony. Those numbers are used for the amount of grandfathers or the amount of cycles we do a sweat through, 4 rounds, those kinds of things. So the numbers are important. Creation shows us those numbers. The corn is one of those plants that also reminds us of those numbers, the importance of those numbers. And so this particular time is that harvest time, main harvest time. And again, it's important because we are moving towards the winter time, so we have to make sure that we are prepared for that winter time, that we have enough food, that we have our clothes ready, the tools we will need for the winter months, the fuel that we will need for our fires, enough birch bark that we've harvested in June, this coming moon, so that we have enough of that. So preparation is important, and this corn moon reminds us, this Mindaman Giizis is about making sure we are ready. And you see the animals, we follow them too. We watch the beavers getting ready right through summer into the fall, but they get busier in the fall getting ready. All the animals, they all get ready. The bears getting ready to go into their dens, eating as much as they can to get that layer of fat that will help them throughout that winter. So it's a time when, although the harvesting is winding down, the growth is winding down, plants are slowing down, the harvesting of things is speeding up so that the preparation is done. And that reminds us of our life too, that Mindaman Giizis, that we live our lives, we prepare ourselves, we get ready for those last years of our lives as we move towards that western door, that our life, we have prepared, we've gotten things ready, and so we need to do that as a part of our life. The 10th moon, falling leaves. Zach?
Yeah. Benakwe, Giizis.
Yeah. And that falling leaves moon is that time when the leaves, you see them, they change color and then they begin to fall. It's again a part of reminding us of the preparation that we will need to make for those winter months. It also reminds us of our lives. You know, those leaves, those things that we need to let go to keep moving, to prepare us for what lies ahead for us. We have to let things go. And so the trees remind us of that as well. And before they fall, they change colors. Colors are just beautiful. Again, it only happens in our territories. You go down to the southern part of Turtle Island, they don't have the same fall. Their moon at this time will be a different name, and it'll speak to what happens down there. But for us, it is the time our mother, the earth, she puts on her regalia, her fall regalia, preparing for that dance, preparing for the winter months that are coming ahead. So, you know, this time is a very visual one, a very visual time that we see. A lot of movement of the leaves falling, changing color. You see, again, you can see where um, the colors will change. You actually see the trees changing colors. Not all the trees, of course. The fir trees remain green, although they change different shades of green. Tamarack is the only one whose needles will change color and fall off, grow back again the following year, but all the other evergreens stay green. But their color will change slightly. So it's a time to celebrate the year that has passed and preparing, getting ready for the winter months where things slow down and then the new year will come afterwards. Freezing moon, Zach?
Bashkakudin, Giizis.
Yeah, that time when the water, which carries life and is always moving, begins to slow down, begins to become dormant for a while. And that layer of ice begins to form on the lakes and rivers. The freezing moon, when the star nation is closest to us. You know, during those 13 moons, the earth is moving around our grandfather, the sun. And the stars are so vivid at this time, in this moon in November. They look so bright, so close. And it's those final moons before we go into that natural fast where all of creation goes into its fast. And so it's an important time when to be prepared, because once that freezing moon starts, then you need to have prepared yourself the rest of the year for this moon and the next couple of moons that will happen during that winter time. Little spirit moon.
Yeah. Nidogi Sons.
Yeah.
Nidogi Sons.
The 12th moon of creation, a little spirit moon, time of healing. When our mother, the earth, goes into into her rest for the winter, covers herself with that blanket of snow, and some of the creatures will snuggle up to her during that time. Will sleep with her, snuggle up to her for the winter months. And it's a time of healing. And again, it reminds us too of ourselves, of getting good sleep, not just at this time, but every day, every evening, every night of our lives, to try to get good rest. because during that rest time is a time when our body heals. And so for our Mother, the Earth, during this time, she's healing from all the work she had to do with us, humans. We cause her a lot of work, cause her a lot of damage these days. You see it on the news, and you just look outside and you see it. Climate change and all these things happening are causing pain for her. So she needs her rest. And so this is that time when she and all of us need to make sure we get that right amount of rest. And that gives us time to reflect on the year that has passed. And the 13th moon,
Chimney door, Giizis. Chimney door.
that big spirit moon, sometimes called the blue moon, to purify us, to heal us all. Usually sweats are some people won't do them in the winter, but there are some hardcore guys that will do sweats in the winter, and will do it around these times as well. Not only the moon time or the moon ceremony, full moon ceremony, but also sweats are done around these times to really connect to the energy of what is around. And although it's a quiet time, there's still a powerful energy that is happening all around creation. So it's a time for purification, for healing of all creation. And during this time, we receive instructions on healing powers of the universe. And they say that it's in this time that the bears, that they will receive their dreams, their medicine, knowledge. Is when we as Anishinaabe go into that lodge, into that sweat lodge, or into ceremony, and we are seeking healing knowledge, we are always asking that medicine bear, that sacred bear, and asking to give us direction, to give us medicine knowledge. So we pray to that bear for that medicine. And that's how we receive it. And they receive it through their dream time. Those bears in hibernation, they receive that medicine through their dream time. And so we request that from them, that knowledge we're looking for, whether it's personal healing or healing for someone else. That's how we receive it, through creation. Creation passes it to the bears, passes it to the plants. We receive it from them. It's all connected. And again, this is a time where those stories are told. We sit around in our lodges and we share the teachings and stories with one another, our experiences of the year, the things we learned, the things we need to know for the next coming year. All these things are a part of those 13 moons. So our grandmother is the one who reminds us of that natural time that we actually live by, and that how it connects us to creation. And I remember in my younger days hearing about, how people were late for class or late for meetings or stuff, and they would say, "Oh, I'm on Indian time," and everybody would laugh. And I remember once it was used around one of my teachers, and they got not upset, but they were straightened us out pretty quick. They said, "Indian time is not late. Indian time is on time. It means when it's time. It just doesn't follow a clock. Springtime doesn't happen, on exactly May 21st. It might happen a little before, might happen a little after. It happens when it happens, when creation moves into that. Or summer. It doesn't happen on June 21st. That's just a calendar that says it is. But summer, that moment that it moves, it's not even actually one day. it's there is a movement that happens from one stage to the next, from one season to the next. It's not like one day and one day. It gradually happens and transforms. Just the Western way of looking at things, a colonized view, is to segment it, and have our structures control it, but it doesn't. It's it doesn't happen that way. So our 13 moons are a reminder of our natural connection to creation and how each moon has its special teachings, special learning, special knowledge, special times where things happen. So miigwech.
Yeah, we did have one question here. They were asking about why is there a change between Giizis and Giizis when it changes from that little spirit to big spirit, or to regular sized spirit, I guess.
Well, I know one is there's a reference, and my wife Lori was talking about this, how um, when we look at the moon, um, we refer to it as a sun. It's like the grandfather's sun, but it's a night sun. It's a smaller sun, but it's still a reference to to a sun that that's in the sky. So I don't know if that's the part of the answer to the question they mean, but one is and you're the language person. Maybe you could share a little bit of what you think.
Yeah, I don't hearing the words, like when it's talking about the Giizis there. I think when I look at it, anyways, like when I sit and I think and I look at those night suns that come, like you said, but it's super bright, but it also seems like it's further away at that time. Like
Mm,
it looks a little smaller in the sky on its own.
yeah,
It's super bright in the wintertime because it reflects off the snow, but
yeah.
it looks like it's a little further away. That might be in my mind anyways why they're talking about it. Just looks a little smaller.
Now there are reasons why those words are used, but sometimes and I'm not a speaker, so it's hard for me to say exactly. Um, but some of that is older knowledge about those words that you know that explain those things. Maybe that could be a school assignment.
Yeah, research into
Yeah.
that. Yeah, well, awesome. A lot of people are saying you, Glitch, for your sharing your knowledge or the opportunity. But yeah, for those of you in the chat, not in the chat, those of you who are in the thing in the meeting today, Janie will be putting basically a survey um, for people to fill out. It just helps us moving on, like moving forward, if we need changes or what was liked about it. She'll put a link to the survey in the chat. But Janie says she has a question. She'll ask you here in a second.
Sure.
Perry, thanks for sharing. I'm just going to post the feedback form right now in the chat. There you go. But I did have a question. Do you have any advice for us in the call on how we can kind of honor these moons and, live these teachings in our everyday lives? I know it's so hard sometimes, but if you have any advice how we can apply those teachings to our lives and, live with the moons, because that's something I would love to start doing.
Well, I think, to pay attention to them, first of all, to know when the cycles are happening, when the full moon. There was a time I didn't really take much notice, but now my wife and I, we notice when the moons are, what state they're at and when they're full. And, because we know more about each moon, we try to mirror some of the things in during those times as a part of our life. Like for instance, in that sugar moon, we haven't tapped trees in a little while, but we have we try to tap them when we can. Um, and and so we make that moon a part of our life. We do some of those things that happen during those moons to honor those moons. That's how you honor them, by by acknowledging, knowing, and doing something that relates to that moon cycle. It's a part of your life. The berries will be coming up soon. A lot of people go out and they harvest berries. So if you can, go out and harvest berries during that moon. Even now, the flowers going out to, one of the things we do at home, and more people are doing it now, is we're not cutting our lawns right away. We let the dandelions, which is one of those first flowers to come up, that the bees need to eat, to get to do the work they need to do with all the other flowers, to make sure we get to that next moon, to make sure the plants are pollinated, and and those berries and fruits come out. So finding out in your area, because everyone's area, depending where you're from, so it might be a little bit different. But finding out about what's the moon, what's it called in where I'm from, or where I'm at, and then finding out what are some of the things that are done, activities that are done during those particular moons, and maybe trying to find a way to make that a part of your life. And as you do these things, you'll learn more and you'll do more. You'll be drawn more into it. It's one thing to research things online and that's good intellectually. But, Anishinaabe, Indigenous, is experiential. You experience things. And the more you do that, the more it becomes a part of who you are. It becomes more part of your life. So I would say, do your research, but find out what some of the things that you can do during that moon that are traditionally done, and try to do those. Try to in some way make that a part of your life, and that'll make your life better. I guarantee it. Miigwech for that.
Miigwech.
Hey, we have another question here. I think it's a good one here. Well, not that the other ones weren't good, but they're saying in Western culture, they say that the full moon brings out the crazy in people. Do Indigenous believe the moon changes people's attitudes or personalities?
Well, yeah, I think it brings out the crazies in the colonizers. I think that might be true, but it is a powerful time, because even when the moon is in that full moon, there is energy that's pulling the water. Like when the tides, for instance, are being pulled by the gravity, or the force from the moon, so it pulls the water up and then it drops down. And so this particular time, the moon its power of our grandmother is strong, so it's going to affect things in different ways. But I think if it affects things in a good way too. It just affects things. There's a medicine that's in the air, and I think if you're not aware of it, you might be a little more emotional, more happy, maybe more angry, so it affects people differently. But I think knowing that and preparing for that during those cycles will help you manage yourself around those cycles. So, there are changes that happen in people and in creation during those times, because it's a constant cycle that happens of strength and then letting go, and then strength and then letting go. Each cycle, each moon cycle, it affects us all, affects everything. So yeah, you do see that, but we get hung up on the crazies, those kind of phrases. But it's not just that happens. It does all kinds of things, brings all kinds of good medicine to creation. But it is a powerful medicine, and you need to respect it. I don't know if that again answers your question, or answers the question.
Yeah, I think it's just I think that, like you said, like the colonizers just trying to put an excuse, I guess, to the way they're behaving. They're blaming it on something else.
That's right.
But yeah, and I think what you say, like, it really changes that emotion. And it's just like, I think it gives us that reminder that we need to do that work that moon is telling us to do. It's like, oh, it's reminding us that needs to happen. And
Exactly.
another one, Mabel Dokis there, she was listening in. She was just saying that that Giizis is like meaning that it's small, but it's meaning the beginning. Like it's just that's the beginning. Then when you turn into Giizis, it changes to the grandfather or the grandmother moon, like the full thing. That's
Yeah. Oh, miigwech for that. We got another teaching.
yeah.
You were kind of alluding to that, but
Yeah.
now it's explained better now.
Yeah. All
Any other
right.
questions,
Yeah, if there's no more questions, a lot of people are just grateful to hear the teachings today. We had some, like Rachel White was here with her class. They looked like they were just listening in today.
Yeah.
So, well, with that, we're great timing. We're a little bit ahead, but that's great. So please, so miigwech to Perry for coming in today, sharing his knowledge, and please take the time to fill out the feedback form. I send it along. I send back all the nice words and that along to our speakers that we come in. And there's a lot of thank yous coming in right now in the chat.
Yeah, and just remember what I shared was just so small, so tiny compared to the amount of knowledge of each moon, of the 13 moons. There's so much more. But the more you delve in, each of you individually, the more you learn, the more, the more you're going to take in, the more understanding you're going to get, the more your eyes will become, open more. The more things make sense when you start to look around. You go, oh, okay, now I get that. Or I never saw that before. And that's, it's a forever learning. And so what we did today was just so tiny compared to the amount of knowledge that exists around these teachings.
Yeah, well, it's one of those. Is like you start getting in there and you're doing that work that goes with those moons. You wouldn't be able to go to your regular day job. That would be your that would be your day job.
Yeah, that's your day job.
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for the insight, Zach.
Miigwech.